That's what I'm saying. It's being recorded. Who's going to lead the prayers tonight? Is Jana there with you, John? Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Can you do it, Eloise, please?
Yes. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Praise the Shakyamuni Buddha 3 times. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. We'll do the short mandala offering in English tonight. This ground, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniyatayami. And I think we'll do refuge and generating bodhicitta in English tonight. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings.
So, good evening, everyone. And maybe we can start with the short motivations. First, we can try to just watch your breath mindfully for a few moments. Then we can try to contemplate that as long as we are in samsara, nothing is perfect. We can wish for the perfect, but in samsara, it's not possible. Part of the samsara is always imperfections, problem, suffering. Not always getting what we want on individual level or as a collectively on a collective level. And encountering situations, things, experiences that we don't want. This is all part of the samsara. That is the nature of the samsara. With that understanding, we need to learn to accept that is what it is. If everything's come into existing the way we wish, what we want all the time, then it wouldn't be samsara. But again, as long as in samsara, the very nature of samsara is that. It's just like in the winter, we expect, snow. And that is the way it is, the nature of the winter in our place. Similarly, that is what it is. So we will recognize that, understand that, and accept that. There is no reason to be so extremely upset, disappointed. Disturbed. And if we don't want to see and experience all these undesirable, unwished experience, situations, circumstances for ourselves and for others, then we need to get out of samsara. And we need to help others to get out of samsara. And the way to free oneself and all others from the samsara is by freeing ourselves from all those afflictive emotions, disturbing emotions, obscuration. That is the only way. As long as we have those afflictive emotions, disturbing emotions, dissatisfied, mind of attachment, desire, anger, ignorance, and so forth. No matter what situation, we will never be fully happy, satisfied. We will always find something to be unhappy about. We will always find something to complain about. We will always find something to blame all the time. Therefore, if we want to find truly peace in ourselves and others, and to have better experience situations, then we have to reduce and overcome and destroy those afflictive emotions. And to do that, we need to cultivate all this positive mental state, such as true love, compassion, bodhicitta mind, wisdom, realizing the ultimate truth, and so forth. And to actualize such positive virtues, inner qualities, we need to really engage in training our mind through contemplation, meditation, and practice. And to engage in the practice, meditation, contemplations, we need to be reminded of those practices, and we need to continue to learn and study about them. For that very purpose, reason, I'm going to listen. And not only listen, that I will try to integrate as much as possible if I find anything that is helpful in the future. Okay. So I would like to start the, say a few words. Probably many of you, or most of you, might have been sad and, disappointed. Um, or maybe even feeling, kind of negative, maybe even anger, maybe even and confused, different range of emotions, different range of emotion that could have arisen due to the, recent situation from the elections, and that might be bothering you, but again, whatever happens, happen, from our side, we try our best, what we believe is the best, and what we believe is the right thing to do, and then we did what we need to do, and then the majority of people had different views and different ideas, and and that is their, they have the right to vote just as we, and we just have to accept that fact and reality, and move on, and not to get caught off in the past, which has already happened, which we cannot change. Instead of being kind of tied up for what is happened, instead we just move forward, and by knowing that nothing is permanent, is impermanence. Things have changed from what was before now to different things, and this will also not last. It will also change. Again, we have the opportunity to to change that again in the futures when the time comes, and to make forward. And part of our life is always like that. Sometimes we make progress, and sometimes we have some setback. Always, that has throughout the histories, even in our individual life, even in our health. There are times when our health is good, we try to our health improve, and there are points when we have setback in our health. Same in the relationship. Sometimes we have good relationship, and there are times when the relationship is tough and not easy, and when we have challenges. Same in our financial situations. There are times when we do better, and there are times we struggle more. And same as a country, as a world, there are times when things are moving in certain directions and progressively, and there are times when there is a setback and challenges. It's not the first time that is being experienced. And, of course, at certain time, we think this is the worst time that has happened in this country. But when you look back, that wasn't the worst time. And at the moment, we feel it's the worst time because we are experiencing in the middle of that. Like when the George Bush was, or cabinet, with there, a lot of people feel this is the worst government that we had, and he will destroy the country, he will destroy the world, everything. That's how you felt. But when you look back now, of course, there was some setback, and there were things that we don't agree, and things wasn't so good. But at the same time, the country survived, and it is still going on. And and at the moment, because we're in the middle of that, sometimes it feels hard, and we feel this is the worst time, and this is going to be the worst time. Or all situations, and that is how we feel with many situations when you are in the middle of that. But later we found out that wasn't, we can overcome that, and it's one of those small setback that we face as a countries, just like an individual and as a collectively, as a country. And I think it's important to look bigger pictures, broader and bigger pictures, and not just this moment. Look throughout the histories, throughout the history, how we have gone through much more difficult and challenging than this time, and still as a country, they were able to, overcome all these challenges and setback, and continue to make progress, continue to make progress, and I believe it's important to really look that, so that we don't kind of let our mind to become insane, that we don't allow our mind to be in such a negative state and despair and all those negative states, because it doesn't help you, it doesn't help the situations, it doesn't change the reality, the situations, it doesn't change anything, but it affects you negatively, which is not healthy. And yeah, and so I think I just wanted to say a few words on that. And also, when I really reflect on, I think probably it is the manifesting of the karma of the world in general, and our as the karma of this country and this citizens. It is like something that happens. It almost feel like it is impossible. How could that happen? But it happens. It happens, and I feel there is some energy so strong. No matter what you do, you cannot stop that energy. If you look, from every perspective, there's no way that he can win and they can win. But not only they win with it much more stronger than last time. And it is hard to see how that can be possible, but still it happens. I think the karmic energy is so strong that even people who dislike him so much still decide to support for that. I've been seeing articles or hearing some, people voted with him, even feeling embarrassed to vote for him, still they decide to do that. That is how it is. There's disliking so much, they felt very embarrassed to vote for him, but still they did. They felt so bad about them, they have to not look at themselves and kind of close themselves and vote it. And so there is some kind of energy that kind of, drag them, and things that happens in recent times that affected all of that, for people's decisions, the COVID, and because of the COVID, the price went up, and because of all the grocery, everything inflation, price went up, a lot of people felt, people who struggles, they felt the situation was not good economically for them, their families, and they believed that he could do better than they believe, whether that is true or not, but in their mind, they truly believe that he could do better on economic, on border issues. So not because they voted, because they like him or his policy, all the policy of him, but because they believe, that he could fix the economic problem and maybe the border problems, and then I hear and I see even some of very liberal who are very upset and angry with the war, that has been going in Ukraine, that has been going in the Gaza, what is happening in Gaza and Ukraine. And there are so many people who are extremely upset about that. And they are extremely upset with this government for that. And on all other issues, they are very, very progressive, very liberal. But when it comes to war, they are really, really upset and angry. Even I don't talk much politics, but I just happen to, someone brought this issue and we just discussed, and both of my friends were very upset and with that, and that is why they are not going to vote for her, and because they feel her policy is no different from the present government, Joe Biden, and she didn't mention anything different than how she's going to end those wars. And for them, it seems this war is never ending. They are totally angry with, upset with war. They are totally out. Some of them fought against the war during the Vietnam times, and they don't want to see all more and more war. And so again, I'm saying that why I'm bringing that, because sometimes people get upset, not necessarily because of the president himself, but because people who support him. And because a lot of people are upset, how come so many people support him and believe that therefore all these people have the same mentality like him? But again, just to remind that not everyone who support him like him or his behavior, his actions, and all of that, but they vote for all these certain issues. Like they believe maybe he would be able to stop the war. They believe that he will be able to improve the economic situation for them, which they are struggling with. They believe that he could fix the border issues, which they feel very strongly about that. So again, based on different certain issues, they vote for him. And so again, I think it is important for us to understand that and not to be so upset and have so much anger and resentment and negative feelings towards them, and also not to be so depressed by thinking, how come so many people supported him, therefore everyone must be like him, the way they think, the way they do. Not everyone thinks like him. Even people who supported him, many of them supported for certain issue, and many of them actually it turned out opposite. You would think that people will vote against him, but actually I found many people vote against the present government because of the war. That is what I experienced. I don't know how much number in terms of number, but definitely there are quite big who actually voted for the present government because of these war issues. So therefore, anyway, I think what I'm trying to see is that because this is the same thing that I hear last time, even 2016 when he won, and of course even more now. And not only in this country, also I hear that in Europe, Asia, everywhere I go, people think, how come so many millions of people, or almost half of the populations, have same mentality and that kind of behavior, action to support him? But that is not true. That is not true. I think there are people voted for different reasons, for particular issues, and they don't agree with everything that he represents, or his policies, or his values, or his way of thinking. So I think because I see some people's feeling and saying, I don't feel angry for him, but I feel angry for others who supported him. And so again, I think it is important for us to understand all of that and not to have so much anger, resentment, and negative feelings, because it doesn't help ourselves, it doesn't help anyone, short term, long term. So the best thing is that how can we keep our mind calm and peace? And the way to keep our mind calm and peace is contemplating and reflecting, thinking in a more broader perspective from many different angles, different areas. And, if possible, if we can feel compassion, it's great. But even if we cannot feel compassion, at least, try not to have those negative feelings, as much as possible. And that shouldn't stop us from being smiling to others, strangers, or with others, even we don't agree with our values or policies and views, and we shouldn't stop cultivating compassion and love for others. So, so I think, I think that I just wanted to say a few words on that, because this is something that is so fresh. It's going in so many people's mind. As time will, like everything, when the time goes by, we will heal from that, and we will be in so, But when it's so fresh, so recent, is the emotions are much more stronger. The feelings are much stronger. Okay. Let me see. Hey, Geshe, I don't know if I have a specific question. I was thinking about how we are in degenerate age and was wondering what you would suggest for us to do. Continue having hope while we live through this age. Thank you. Of course, degenerate age, of course, in many teachings and many things, it is saying we're in degenerate time or age, So in degenerate time, where, of course, there are many different, the 5 degenerations, but one of the main things in degenerate time, people become less spiritual and people have more, become more materialistic and have more affective emotions, delusions. They become more, there's more greediness, there's more attachments, there's more anger, there's more ignorance, more also. I think that is one of the main, of degenerate age or times. And so again, even with that, then also it can understand why people are so again, it helps us to not to blame others for having too much, being too materialistic or not being too spiritual or having too much afflictive emotions, because it is the degeneration age and time. It is that. And so again, if we understand it is the degeneration time and age where it is strong, all this. So again, I think it helps us to understand that is kind of what it is, what does that means, But from our side, whether it's degenerated time or age, whatever, from our side, we try to work with our minds. So despite it's a degeneration time and age, you can come out of that too. You can come out of that too, and so it's working with our own mind, working with our own mind. Again, we unenlightened beings, samsaric unenlightened beings, and our mind being impermanent nature, our view changes, our value changes, our perspective changes, our mind changes time to time. And so therefore, certain people who have different value at one time, sometimes those value changes, sometimes those perspective changes, sometimes those, and so then therefore we go to up and down, some, and so is one of those time and one of those process, and it is time when from our point of view, of course, not everyone feel that. From our point of view, it is a time when there is a one setback from progress, but I don't believe that it will stop from going forward and make more progress. It is just a moment of kind of, you can say, a setback. There's a breakthrough that, and but we will come out of that. And as a country, they will come out of that. And sometimes people respond or react in the moment of emotions. In the moment of emotions, and sometimes such election also people vote or elect in the moment of emotions, and and maybe sometimes they might regret later, to have response or acted in the moment of emotions, and but then maybe they could change in the futures, their perspective change, their policies change, their value change. And then, again, we have the opportunity to change and move forward, It has never been smooth and progress all up and up all throughout the history. We always have gone through that, up and down, up and down. And through that, we learn that, as a society, as a country, you learn the mistake we make as a country, as a whole country. We make, that was the mistake we made, and then they come together to change it. And I believe that will also be the cases. Sometimes we have to reach certain boredom to really awaken, some just like in a lot of people who have challenges in their life, with what you call addictions, sometimes no matter how people try to help them to overcome it, no matter how people encourage, help, inspire, they cannot get out. They keep falling back, relapse, until they reach very bottom of it. Once they reach very bottom of it, then they realize, and that's when they are able to come out of it and heal. And I believe also even as a country, as a world, in a situation, sometimes we have to go to certain state to realize, as a society, as a country, to realize, that wasn't the case, that wasn't the best things, and to realize that, and that's where the direction that we don't want to go, and that was the direction we went, and that was the mistake, and to be able to come out of it. So I think we will always have to keep hopeful by focusing on the positive side, not just the negative side. Like everything's, if you just focus on negative side, then of course, we are going to be lose hope and discourage and despair, so we have to see the positive side and focus on the positive side, and also not only just focus on the immediate moment setback, but really looking for bigger perspective of long time, looking for 100 years. Within 100 years, even though we have many setbacks, we continue to make progress. We continue to move forward. And so I think if we just focus on just that one moment of the setback, then it feels like this has always been like that, or that things are going to get worse and worse. But again, there is a capacity and ability to come out of that too, and continue to progress. So I think try to focus on try to focus on the positive. Okay, I think maybe that is so that is okay. So back to the today's topics. Introduction to the Tantra. First, I like to kind of I want to really talk, how the teaching of Tantra way, how it comes in terms of the returning wheel of the Dharma, So all the Buddha's teachings can be, contents within the returning wheel of the Dharma, The first turning wheel of the Dharmas, after his enlightenment, the first teachings and many other teachings he gave later, which are part of the first turning wheel of Dharma, Buddha focused on the teaching on Four Noble Truth, focus on Four Noble Truth and practice and teaching that is related around that, the Four Noble Truth, mindfulness, which are related with the Four Noble Truths, so around that. Then in second turning wheel of the Dharma, then Buddha gave those teachings on Prasnaparamita Sutras, such as, on the wisdom, Prasnaparamita's teachings, So it is expansions. The second turning wheel of the Dharma is the expansions from the first turning wheel of the Dharma. In the first turning wheel of the Dharmas, Buddha gave teachings, that how everything is, selfless, empty of self and selfless, and teaching on the selfless of the persons. And then in second turning wheel of the Dharma, he expanded that, and then he explained the emptiness of not only the self, emptiness of all phenomena as well. That is one way of understanding. Or in some others explanation, in the first turning wheel of Dharma, Buddha gave, teaching on emptiness, selflessness on more growth level, and then in second turning wheel of the Dharma, then he expanded that, and he taught more deeper or more profound or more subtle level of the selflessness and emptiness. Whichever way, it is an expansion from the first teachings on the wisdom. Then in the second turning wheel of Dharma, so that all the Prasnapada Sutta is a Heart Sutta, Dhammikata Sutras, 8,000 verses of Paramita Sutras, 20,000 verses, 20,000 Paramita Sutta, 100,000. So there are many different sutras that is wisdom Prasnapada Sutras and all those teachings. And also not only those on the wisdom, but also he also taught, the Bodhisattva path, all the Bodhisattva path in the second turning wheel of the Dharma. And then in third turning wheel of the Dharma is the expansion from the first, second turning wheel of the Dharma. So then when you talk about the emptiness and the wisdom realizing emptiness, and not only wisdom realizing emptiness, most subtle level of the emptiness, or most profound and subtle level of wisdom. Then in third turning wheel of Dharma, of course, within the third turning wheel of Dharma, there are many, again, sutras, and some of such sutras, such as, Tathagata Sutra, the Sutra of Buddha nature, and many other sutras. And in those sutras, then Buddha explained about the wisdom realizing emptiness. So in those sutras, Buddha explained within the wisdom realizing emptiness, there is the wisdom, gross wisdom, and subtle wisdom realizing emptiness. The wisdom can be realized by the gross mind and then more subtle mind. So in terms of the object that is being understood or realized, the same is the emptiness, but in terms of the subject, the mind, that wisdom that realizes the emptiness, then there are gross mind and subtle mind. And then in third level of the mind, in third turning wheel of Dharma, then Buddha explained about that the wisdom, which is more subtle mind that perceives the emptiness. And then Tantra practice are expansion from that wisdom. And so then Tantra practice are then expansion of that wisdom. How to cultivate that more subtle mind, and through that more subtle mind, the clear light mind, how you can realize or understand the emptiness directly. And so I think that, so in terms turning rule of Dharma, that is where the teaching on the Tantra come from, you can see, and it is the Buddha is leading, from one stage to another stage, more kind of gradually through his teaching and practice, leading to a higher and a higher level of, a more deeper, you can say more deeper, more profound level of understanding of the wisdom. So that is in order to have it is explained that tantric practice is quick, easy, blissful path. Okay? I think that sounds very attracting, isn't it? We all want quick path, quick result. We all want easy path without working very hard. Easy, quick result. And not only quick and easy with difficulty, but or the challenge, but with the blissfulness. Everything seems very attractive. That is what we want, isn't it? But in order the tantric practice to become, as is mentioned, to be quick path, to be easy and blissful path, as is mentioned, you need to have strong foundations. If you don't have those strong foundations, then it doesn't become quick path. Then it doesn't become blissful path. Then it doesn't become easy path. It becomes only easy, quick, blissful path if you have a good foundations. And the good foundations that is required is what we call common path. The common path. The common path that is practiced both in Sutra and Tantra. And that is, the Lamrim and three principal aspects of the path. The Lamrim or three principles of path. So if we have a very strong foundations of those practice, on the basis of those strong practice, on the basis of strong foundation of those practice, then if you engage into tantric practice correctly, then definitely, then it can be quick, easy, and blissful path. So therefore, if we studies from early Indian masters and later Tibetan masters, before they explain the tantric path, they always explain and teach those common paths. They will never, even when they give a initiation, before initiation, they will always have the teachings on the common path. Just to emphasize how those common paths, the practice of those common paths is so essential to have a for your tantric practice to become effective and powerful and have the result as it is supposed to have. So if we look in one of the great Indian masters, Adisha Divankara, Shri Gyana, in his Lamb of the Path to Enlightenment, at the very beginning, he explained all the practice, teaching and practice of the Lamrim, three scopes, the practice of small scope, the practice of middle scope, the practice of greater scope, which is the Lamrim practice. He explained that. After he explained all these common paths, the whole Lamrim, then he talked about the Vajrayana or the Tantric path, and so why he did that first is because those is needed as a foundations, those common path, in the common path, as I mentioned, there are two ways of presenting differently. One way of presenting, the way is presented in Lamrim through the presentation of small, middle, and great scope, or it can be presented as three principal aspects of the path which we just finished, as the path of renunciation, bodhicitta, and the wisdom. And so if I might want to just kind of read a little bit from those, in the Lamb of the Path to Enlightenment, then after he explained all the common path and that you need to cultivate all those common paths in detail, then he said, if you wish to take up practice of secret mantra or tantra, as taught in the actions, conduct, and others tantras, there are 4 types of tantras. So you're talking, if you want to practice in any of those 4 types of tantra, if you have the wish to do that, first you need to have the foundation common path. On the foundation common path, then if you have that interest, then in order to practice the tantra, then you need to have the empowerment. So therefore, in order to receive the empowerment from a Vajra master, you must please the noble spiritual teacher through veneration, offering of wealth and life, and endeavoring to carry all the commands, advices. Through the complete bestowal of Vajra master empowerment by spiritual master whom you have delighted, you will be completely purified of all your negative karma and gain the fortune of accomplishing the cities. So here he explained, first you need to have the foundations of the common path. On the basis of those foundations, if you wish to practice the Vajrayana Tantric practice, then you try to take empowerment from qualified master to ripening your mind and giving you the permissions to practice those practices. And having taken the empowerment, then you need to keep all this samaya or commitment that comes with that. Because keeping those commitments and the precepts is the fundamental to achieve the spiritual realization in Tantric path and in any path, especially in Tantric path, And on the basis of keeping all these precepts and commitment, then you engage into the different practices, in terms of the lower tantra, the practice of sign and signless, in terms of high yoga tantra, the practice of generation stage and completion stages, So I think for many of you, there might be too many informations, and even a lot of terms. Maybe you might have trouble. What is generation stage? What is completion stage? All of that. But I think today is just introduction, so I don't have time to go all in details. But I think hopefully with it, as you study more, you will get. And then in relation to that, Lama Tsongkhapa, one of the greatest Tibetan masters, one of the greatest scholars, teachers, practitioners, masters, in Tibet. In his foundation, all good qualities, then he says, when trained in common path, so having trained in your common path of, the Lamrim or Tirpinsawaksa path, then I'm a suitable vessel. Then you become a suitable vessel to practice the tantric practice, Until you have trained in those common path, you are not suitable, or so that's where. And I'm suitable vessel. I request inspiration to enter with the ease the great gateway of the fortunate one, the Vajrayana, the supreme of all vehicles. The basis of achieving two powerful attainments is the pure vows and commitment that I pledged for keeping those commitments and pledges and precepts. Having found the true understanding of this, I request inspiration to keep them even at the cost of my life. Having realized the significance of two stages, which are the essence of the Tantric path, I request inspiration to steadily practice without laziness 4 sessions of yoga and realize what the holy beings have taught. So again, I just wanted to kind of as all these masters mentions, how powerful, how effective, how strong your tantric practice become. It depends on how strong, good foundations that you have of common path, how strong training you have on common path, as some of you who have been doing some tantric practice, sadhanas, you will realize, meditating on emptiness, whether it is the refuge field, whether it's the meditate field, and including yourself dissolving the emptiness, and then meditating on emptiness, from that emptiness, wisdom realizing emptiness, arising as the deity and so forth, driven by the bodhicitta mind to be greatest benefit to all sentient beings. So if we don't have good training on common path, if we don't have good understanding and realization of emptiness, so even when we do those tantric practice, we are just imagining, visualizing. We are not really cultivating the wisdom realizing emptiness. In order to have that practice powerful, become a powerful, effective, and strong, then you need to have wisdom realizing emptiness. So then you are not just imagining that you are having that wisdom realizing emptiness, and that wisdom realizing emptiness is manifesting in that deity. At the moment, we are just imagining, visualizing. So there's a huge difference. Imagining, visualizing that wisdom arising in the deity, and actually having that wisdom, and that wisdom arising as a deity. There's a huge difference power. So that is why you need to have very strong, foundation of common path. Same thing in our visualization in relation to the sadhanas, and when we do the mantra recitations, one of the visualization, common visualization in those is, you visualize your deity, and then you make offering to all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas receiving the blessings, as well as you send rays of light from your heart out of bodhicitta mind in order to free all sentient beings from suffering and lead them to fully enlightenment. From your heart, you visualize sending all the rays of light, and then purifying all the negative karma, delusion, obscurations, and then you imagine, visualize them guiding and leading to the fully enlightenment, and they all become Buddha, they all become enlightened. So that is what visualization we do. But again, this is just at the moment we are just imagining. But if you have true bodhicitta mind, you really have that, you are not just with that bodhicitta mind, then that when you do that practice, then it becomes so real. It becomes so real, so true, so real. That practice becomes very strong and real. At the moment, our practice, of course, we do as part of training, but it's not so as strong. It's not as so real because we don't have true bodhicitta mind. We try to generate good bodhicitta mind motivation, but at the moment we don't have true bodhicitta mind. So again, that bodhicitta mind doesn't come effortlessly, naturally, and manifesting that way. So that is why the foundations. So, and one of the things I always kind of encourage, or advise, whatever, or suggest, even when we do the practice, of tantras, because we are taking the initiations, so we have the commitment to do certain sadhanas, certain practice. While we try to do those keep commitment and do those sadhana that we have taken, but at the same time, the focus of our practice, the main focus of our practice should always be the common path, the foundations, unless, of course, if someone has already have those, pure renunciation, bodhicitta, wisdom, realizing emptiness, then of course they don't have to work so hard on that foundation. They have already developed that, so they can focus on generation completion stage of the Tantra and focus mind. But for those who have not achieved that, while you try to practice the sadhana, but the most focus should always again continue to work on the foundation. The stronger foundations, the better result you have with the practice, such as the Tantra. So that is something, and not only me, I think also His Holiness. I'm following His Holiness advice, as His Holiness also has mentioned that quite many times, as that, and even by using some quotation from another teachers, where that teacher says, you recite so many mantras, and your nail has become what you call shortening, because each time you do the malas, it with the is like almost like what you call polishing your nail, and so with malas, your nail become kind of shorter and shorter in a way. So he said, with reciting thousands, millions, and billions of mantras through such practice, the nail has become shortened, but your delusion has not become shortened. The delusion hasn't become less. Your delusion has increased more. And so in a state that says, that's not the way it should be. So the whole purpose of practicing any kind of practice is to reduce and overcome the delusion. So therefore the focus always, while we do those commitment sadhana, we have to do that because there is commitment, and to have the imprint. The main thing is why we receive, even though we might not be fully ready at the moment, because we still need to work on the foundations. The focus should be foundation, even though we need to focus on foundation, and we are not. Why do we take the empowerment and that? Because at least we have those imprint, and so that we can continue to receive those teachings in the futures. and thereby continue to make progress when it right time comes, because we have all the imprint, and through imprint we will continue to encounter those Vajrayana teaching in the future, which is very rare. And so I think that is one of the reasons, that, so just to kind of So first, I wanted to then, in terms of the Tantra, I wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between the Sutra path and Tantra path. In Sutra path, you don't have the practice of path to take resulting path, But in Tantra, the path, you take the resultant path, which means even though you have not fully enlightened now, even though you are not fully enlightened now, but we have the potential to become fully enlightened, the Buddha and the deity. And therefore, from now, we train to see yourself in that result form. That is when you visualize yourself as a deity, the Buddha. It's like, you haven't won the game, but you are, when you won the game, that is what I'm going to do and what speech I'm going to give, So you are rehearsing, rehearsing, what you call rehearsing, yeah. So similarly like that, we have the potential to become a Buddha and deity, and so you are not there, but at the moment we are imagining ourselves in that deity. And so through that, so the four, in tantric practice, you visualize yourself as, Buddha with that kind of divine mind, and then you visualize the whole environment, as a pure, celestial mandala, or the pure environment instead of impure, because again, those whole environment also have the potential to become a pure, and in the futures, when your mind, your karma, and when your mind is purified, also the environment that you live also changes due to your karma and your mind, enlightened mind, and then your actions also. When we practice, you visualize all the environment as pure land, mandala, celestial. You visualize yourself as a deity, and you visualize your actions, not impure, but you visualize your actions as pure actions of helping and benefiting sentient beings, and then the enjoyment. Again, that enjoyment that you experience are not just an ordinary enjoyment that lead to more delusion like at the moment, but you visualize also all those enjoyment as a pure, enjoyment that are nectar, the wisdom, enlightened wisdom relies arising in the nectar, and that nectar arising in a different enjoyment and experiencing that. So that is why in Sutra there is no practice of such, of imagining, visualizing, and then transforming yourself and the environment, your actions and enjoyment as something into a pure and enlightened divine. Whereas in Tantra, you have those practice method to do that, and so that is one of the difference, one of the difference. And if someone is able to hold if someone is able to hold yourself as a deity with a divine pride and without grasping, with understanding of emptiness, and hold very strongly. And if you don't have any impure, through such practice, strong, clear visualization of yourself, if you don't have that impure appearance of yourself, then it stops a lot of negative feeling that arises because of appearance of impurity of ourselves, such as self-hatred, self-pities. Normally, because we have impressions of ourselves as impure, I'm so impure, I'm so imperfect, I'm so bad person, I'm so stupid person, I'm not good enough. So there is all this, we have appearance of our imperfections. And because of that give rise to many of those afflictive emotions, many of those negative feelings, thoughts. But when you are able to hold that divine pride with strong, clear, strong visualization, that it stops all those negative karma, because there is no more impure appearance of yourself. You only see your best part of yourself, the potential you have become, and by being able to do it, you can stop that. And same with environment, because when we see the environment impure and with all the problem and all the negativities, it affects you, it makes you upset, angry, disturbed, agitated, or sometimes attachment, all those different greediness, different. But when you have this, when you are able to visualize and when you are able to hold with those divine pride very clearly of those whole environment in that celestial mansion, Pure Land, again, you don't see any impurity, you don't see any of those faults and everything. And therefore, again, it doesn't give any rise to all those different negative feelings, emotions, and that. And that's the same with your actions. It's the same with the enjoyment. And so that is this is another technique of reducing the afflictive emotions. This is another technique from stopping arising of those afflictive emotions. In Tantra teachings, they do explain all this method, different meditation, different method that is taught in the sutras, how to reduce and how to overcome those afflictive emotions, because those are the common path. Those are the common path, both in sutra and tantra. But on top of that, that is not taught in sutra, but is taught in tantra. There is another different extra method from helping us from arising those afflictive emotions by imagining and visualizing those the four resultant or purity that I just mentioned about the self, environment, the actions, and the enjoyment. So again, and also it helped us to have more and more confidence in our ability and our potentials, by knowing that I could be perfectly complete enlightenment. I have this potential. By knowing the environment can be, it doesn't have to be like now with so much problem and challenges. It can be just perfect. There is a possible of that. You begin to have more confidence and understand the potential, and your every action that you perform, become only benefit and help to others. Nothing, every action you form, nothing become harm or hurtful to others, but every action you create become health and benefit. Every enjoyment that you experience, instead of being a cause for delusions, instead of being the cause for at the moment, being cause of delusions such as cravings, such as disappointments, and all those different. Instead, that every enjoyment you experience become cause of, wisdom, blissful wisdom, that the blissful emptiness wisdom, cause for that and increasing that. And so through that practice, we begin to see the potential of our own potential. We see more strongly potential and to develop more stronger confidence. Though, so that is one of the one of the difference between the Tantra and Sutras. And another thing that is taught in Sutra, which is not in Tantra, is taught in Tantra and not in Sutra, is that this method to transform the desire or desirous energy into path. And so sometimes it is called, the tantric path is also called the path of desire as well. So you use the desire or desirous energy, you use that to overcome the ordinary desire, the attachments, to overcome the ordinary desire, the craving, attachment, as well as all the afflictive emotions. So there is in scripture they talk about there is some type of worm or insect that comes through the tree, and then that worm or that insect started to eat the very tree that give birth to that and destroy the tree by eating it. And it is mentioned similarly, we use the desire or desirous energy, and that desirous energy or desire that lead to the, that give rise, that desire give rise, or that desirous energy give rise to the blissful emptiness wisdom. And with that blissful emptiness wisdom, then it destroys the very ordinary, the desire, attachments, and thereby transform it. And so therefore, again, in tantric, and in sutra, they don't have that method. In sutra, they don't have that method of transforming the desire into the path. Transforming the desire into the path that can destroy all the afflictive emotion, transforming the desire into something true bliss, not just a ordinary craving, ordinary, pleasant feelings, ordinary, comfort and so forth, but to be able to transform into something real blissful, and not only blissful, but also to realize the emptiness. With that blissfulness, to be able to realize the ultimate nature of the mind and all phenomena, and through that, how then transform something into the very powerful path. So that is also one of the unique of the Tantra, one of the unique of the Tantra, that it has this particular path way to transform the ordinary bliss, ordinary desire into something internal bliss, and lasting true internal bliss, blissful emptiness, wisdom. And also in Tantra, in Sutra, even though there is much explanations about the mind, Buddhist psychologists, the study of the mind, very detailed study of the mind, different kind of mind, and how those helpful mind, virtuous mind, those harmful, negative, destructive minds, and those neutral mind that can be turned into negative or positive depending on other factors. The different state of minds, mistaken mind, unmistaken minds, enlightened mind, so there are so much more depth studies of the mind, but still in sutra there is no detailed explanations of the mind, explanation in the form of gross, subtle, and more subtle mind. Whereas in Tantra, there is a much more deeper explanations. Most of the mind that is explained in the sutras are more gross mind. Most of the mind that even the positive mind, even the virtuous mind, explained in the sutras mostly the gross mind. And it doesn't explain about subtle mind and more subtle mind, and how we can use those subtle and more subtle mind, and so forth. But in Tantra, then on top of all the explanation that you find in Sutra, on top of that, then it explains about, gross, subtle, more subtle mind. And it explains how that most subtle mind is the most powerful mind to realize the ultimate nature of your mind and phenomena, most powerful. And not only that, it explained how to, have access to that more subtle mind through certain practice meditation of, opening your central channels. By opening the central channels and thereby, allowing the flow of the wind energy within the central channel. And through the flow of the wind energy in the central channels, then how we can have access to the more subtle mind. And through that more subtle mind, how we can use that more subtle mind to meditate and contemplate on the ultimate nature of the mind and the self and all phenomena. Because that more subtle mind is so powerful, because there's no distraction at all. Because all distractions mind are gross mind, and all this gross mind need to be dissolved to be able to have access to that most subtle mind. And when you have access to that, all this gross mind has already dissolved. And so therefore, so then that is another practice or factor that you find, that. And it is also, as I mentioned before, it is also explained, with the tantric practice. It is an easy way, it's a quick way, because again, both Sutra and Tantra path, it explains it both within the Sutra and Tantra path, in order to achieve our spiritual goal of enlightenment or fully awakened state, we need to create a lot of merit, And then the way that we create merit in tantric path is much more powerful than the way we create merit in Sutra path. because in Tantra path, with one mind, you can have both method and wisdom. And so when you engage in a practice with a practice of particular mind that encompasses both the wisdom and method, then with that mind, when you practice, each time you create so much merit. Whereas in Sutra, method is different and wisdom is different. It's a two different mind. And two different mind. And so with two different mind, when you engage in a practice through the method, you don't have the wisdom. When you practice through the mind of the wisdom, you don't have merit. So when you create merit with one, then the others, but in Tantra, that you are able to accumulate merit as well as purify by having those both wisdom and method in one, with one mind, and that therefore again it becomes very powerful to accumulate merit very quickly. Yeah. So I think that, of course, there are many others. Maybe today I will just. So that is kind of introductions to the Tantra, and there are four type or classes of Tantra. Action Tantra, performing Tantra, Yoga Tantra, Highest Yoga Tantra. And I think I guess maybe we don't have time to go much in each of them. Okay. So any questions I can take? Any questions, comment, please feel raise your hand. I can see Joe, Mary Jo, yes.
Hi, I didn't understand the last type of Tantra. Could you repeat that one, please?
Oh, yeah. Action Tantra, performing Tantra, Yoga Tantra, Highest Yoga Tantra. So there are four.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Does Laura has some questions? No? Anyone? Yeah?
Just my comment. Can you
Yes.
hear me?
Yes.
Just my comment. Thank you for the perspective that you gave at the beginning of the teaching about our demise, the gloom and doom we're in now. And I really appreciate you giving that perspective. It was a good reminder to try to keep a broader view. And that was very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you. Does anyone has any question, comment? Otherwise, we'll do the dedications. Yes, I can see Annie. Anna has questions. Can you unmute you need to unmute, we cannot hear. Oh, we cannot, or you can text, if you can text at the chat box. Okay. So then, yeah, then if there's, we can do the dedications.
Geshe, before we start the dedications, I want to thank you so much for everything you do for our center. All of your all of your preparation and all of your wisdom that you bring to your teachings and the way you teach. And I just don't know that we'd survive without you, quite frankly, because you're
Right.
you know anyway, I thank you so much. We all thank you so much. And we'll miss you big time.
Yeah.
We'll really miss you.
Yes.
And please come back.
Yes,
Please
yes.
come back.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, I of course also I just want to say few words also. I am very happy and inspired that you all have been working so hard to keep the center running and going, even though it's not easy when you don't have so many people to run. And so it is same people who have been putting so much effort for so many years, more than 20 years. It's not like many other center where they have volunteers, so many volunteers, where same people doesn't have to continue to all the time, where people can take break and someone else can take the responsibility and other can take break and like that. But with our group in Taos, unfortunately, we haven't had so many members, and it has always been mostly same who has given so much effort to continue to keep this group running and continue to give opportunity for people who are interested. And again, I think I've mentioned before, and also just to remind, sometimes people might not continue to show up, but they get a seat. Sometimes they come only 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, but they get the seat of the Dharma. They carry the seed of the Dharma. And when the time happens, then that seed manifests, and then they are interested. And they find a Dharma group or wherever they are. And then I've met so many people like that, where they said, they got the seed of the Dharma while they were in Nepal, Kopan, or some others. And for over many years, they get distracted or occupied with other things. And so they never had the opportunity to study and practice. But that seed is always there, and then there come a time in their life when that seed manifests, and then interest and inspirations comes. And whichever part of the world they are, and wherever there's Dharma that offer, and then they go to that, and then they study and practice. But the seed started somewhere in one of the center, one of the places. And I see that very often that happen, even though they don't show up, but still we could have those seeds in their mind. And of course, if we talk from many lifetime, then of course, there is the imprint of hearing even those teaching one time, so much imprint. And so again, I'd like to thank all of you, for working so hard, and especially, it's not easy someone to drive down to pick me up every week, and someone to host, and then someone to drive me back. It is a lot. It's a lot, and there was even time when I even suggested maybe, I could maybe even take the shuttles, even though it is not always at the time that you would like to be, with the shuttle. Sometimes you have to be there early and wait, or sometimes. But you all have said, we would like to, as much as possible, to someone to come to kind of pick me up and drop me, and which you have been doing more than 10, 11 years. And so again, I really appreciate, and also that is also it gives me some kind of inspirations to see so much of dedication, and not only your own personal study and practice, but to give your time, energy, and resource to the center, so that you want to continue to keep on the center run, so that it can offer an opportunity for others people, future, that who are interested. Yes.
I wanted to say, I
Yes,
learned how to turn my thing on. I wanted to say thank you very much, and I'm going to miss you. And you've been a great gift to us.
Thank you. Thank you.
I actually had a question.
Yes, please.
So I've been studying yoga and Tai Chi, And in those practices, usually you imagine sort of a flow of energy from the crown chakra in the head to the root chakra.
Mm-hmm.
And as the practice sort of advances, you reach a point where you can try to sense a subtle connection between your surroundings and other people and the ways that they influence your state of mind.
Right.
But a lot of the tantric practices that I've seen in Buddhism do the opposite. So it goes from the root chakra to the crown chakra, but as the practice advances, you reach the exact same point where you sort of have this sense of unity between yourself and your surroundings. So they lead to the same result, but I'm wondering, why is the practice sort of the opposite way when your perception doesn't really align with that?
Well, to be honest, I haven't learned those yoga and Tai Chi, so I cannot say so much on that. But and again, I think both in many of the spiritual path, um, we talk about unity and non-dualistic, but sometimes there might be subtle difference between what unity means, what that's non-dualistic, even though we might be using same terms, non-dualistic, non the unity, um, even the term selfless. I think even in some others earlier spiritual path within the India school of thought, even though sometimes they use selfless, but the way they use selfless is a bit different from the way we use the selfless in Buddhist. In the way they use selfless is in that you surrender yourself to the God completely. So there's no sense of your yourself that is kind of so it is, of course, in one way is similar to so that you don't have ego, but you completely surrender yourself to the God, and you become one with the God, and through that you becoming one with the God, then you practice the selfless. But in Buddhism, when you talk about selfless, it is slightly different because we don't have this concept of permanent and inherently existing God. And so, and I think sometimes also I notice even we use same term like non-dualistic, and unity and non-dualistic, but I think sometimes there's a subtle difference. And that is what I notice sometimes, even though we might be using the same term, but sometimes if you go more details, specific, more detailed studies with each of those different, then you see some slightly different subtlety differences. So that will be one cases, But even in case, let's say, even something lead to the same result, still the practice method could be different. Is like we might be going to the same place. We are going to the New York, but someone might be driving from different direction, and one might be different direction. One might be taking a flight. So we might be going through different places and different roads and that, but still the destination is the same. It could lead to same, and so we have different path because it suit different persons and different peoples, and even in Buddhist, they are slightly different. Even in tantric practice in Buddhist, there is a slightly different. There's a different channels and chakras in terms of the practitioners of the Kala Chakra Tantra and other Tantras, and also based on that, the explanations on how to practice also is slightly different between those different Tantras, because the individual who's practicing, then they could have slightly different, way of different chakras or slightly different channels, and because of that, so I can so I think that is all kind of I can explain.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So okay, so thank you. So we can do the final dedications.
Due to the merits of these
To
virtuous
these
acts,
virtuous
actions.
may I quickly attain
quickly
the state
attain
of
the
Guru
state
Buddha
of Guru Buddha
and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. The wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Prayer for swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Peerless teacher, assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang, father and sons, along with lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of the infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels, and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. And for Osalhita, it's Lama Yeshe's reincarnation. Venerable One, to you whose kindness exceeds that of all the conquerors, for those wanderers of far-off places, especially the West, mindful of your loving concern for us and intentionally descending again into a family of a far distant land, we make this request. O Lama, please live long.
Please live long.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
I will
Thank
also
you.
miss all of you and
Thank you.
see
Thank
you
you.
in the
Thank
June.
you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Take
Shiva.
care.
Thank you, Geshe a lot.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Geshe-la.
Continue to study and practice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Safe.
Happy
Safe,
travel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
safe
Happy
travel.
travels.
Good
Yes.
travels.
Happy travels.
Thank you. Bye. Good night.
Good night.